This is a comparison a lot of you have been asking for. With us today is the Honda Elevate and the Hyundai Creta that's fresh from a facelift. Over this video, we'll talk of their strengths and weaknesses and help you decide the one that suits your needs best.
Which one looks better is a matter of personal preference. To me, both models are appealing in their own right. The Elevate is neatly styled and well turned out and actually looks a lot larger in the metal than it does in the visuals. The upright bonnet and large grille give it the requisite muscle, and the long wheelbase and class best 220mm of ground clearance help the stance too. The new look Creta is flashier in look. The block-like pattern on the grille, the connected look for the headlamps and connected tail lamps are trendy style details. To me, the Creta looks its best in N-line form, though the sporty-looking versions might not be of interest to everyone. Which of the two SUVs do you prefer? Let us know in the comments below. On to the interiors, and first up in the Elevate.
Like its exterior, the Elevate isn't flashy or doesn't wow you on the inside either, but it has a lot of elements that slowly win you over. For instance, while the dashboard might look quite functional and plain in design, it does place the touchscreen in easy sight, the climate controls in easy access, and there's also plenty of storage on the center console. Then there are the digital dials. Now they're not full digital dials as you get on the Creta, but I like this layout. I like the fact that you get a crisp readout and at least one of the screens is customizable to your liking. Talking quality, the Elevate can't match up with the best in class. There are quite a few hard plastics on the inside, and this wooden finish doesn't look quite in keeping with the times. Then again, you do get this nice soft touch leather-like look on the dashboard, which works really well and goes very well with these seats. Now the front seats are a highlight. They're soft, they're large, and they are really comfortable even over long journeys.
Mind you, the Elevate featured here is in top-spec ZX trim. The leatherette upholstery that extends onto the door pads makes a big difference to the ambience inside. In terms of features, the Elevate ZX packs in a nice enough 10.25-inch touchscreen with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. There's a wireless phone charger, and there's a single-pane sunroof too. The Elevate ZX is competitively priced for what it gets you,
but don't you think there's room for an even higher spec Elevate? One with a panoramic sunroof, a powered driver's seat and front seat ventilation. Wouldn't that be nice?
Into the Creta, whose interior makes a great first impression.
The Creta's cabin immediately feels more upmarket than the Elevate's. The combined effect of these lighter materials, these metal-like finishes, and of course these connected screens makes this cabin feel premium and really inviting. In terms of the look of things, there's textured plastics on the dashboard top. There's a generous use of gloss materials on the center console, but there are no soft touch plastics on the inside of the Creta.
It's premium inside, but a Kia Seltos remains the segment benchmark on this front with greater attention to detail. Talking comfort features, the Creta also has the upper hand with a crisper camera with a 360-degree view, attractive full digital dials, dual zone climate control, a punchier Bose sound system, an electric parking brake, and a panoramic sunroof that's a draw in its own right. However, all's not perfect. As smooth as the 10.25-inch touchscreen is in its responses, it doesn't support wireless functionality for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is a frustrating miss. Lower trims of the Creta with the smaller 8-inch touchscreen ironically get wireless functionality. On the subject, the Elevate is available in 4 trims, while the Creta comes in 7 variants across a wider price spread. Over to the rear seats. Let's start with the Creta that gives the impression of being a larger SUV.
And it delivers on that greater sense of space with a good amount of knee room. But the clear advantage comes in shoulder space. There's ample room for a third person to sit in reasonable comfort. And because of that, the absence of an adjustable center headrest becomes all the more glaring. As for the rear seat itself, it's not quite as comfortable or supportive as the one on the Elevate, but it does bring in a bit more adjustability thanks to an adjustable rear seat backrest angle. As for amenities at the back, the Creta gets and adjustable armrest. You get dedicated air conditioning vents. There are two type C USB charging ports. The rear windows get sunshades, which come really handy on a hot day. The headrests get pillows which you can really sink your head on over long journeys. But perhaps what makes the biggest difference to the experience at the back is this panoramic sunroof.
What's the Elevate like?
The Elevate's backseat might not seem as spacious as the Creta's, but in isolation, this is still a pretty roomy and comfortable space. Now, that relatively long wheelbase translates to a good amount of knee room for a passenger even of my height. These large windows at the back allow a lot of light to enter, and typical of any Honda, the rear seat is very comfortable. Now, since launch, the Elevate has got a mild update in the form of new headrests for the rear center passenger. The trouble is, this is not the roomiest car for three to sit at the back in comfort, and a third passenger will be a bit of a squeeze. Now, as for features at the back, you get a fold down center armrest, which I find positioned a bit too low for my liking, but you do get a nice nifty pocket for your phone. There's also an old school 12-volt charger. A Type A or Type C USB port should have been included.
When it's time to load luggage in, it's the Elevate with the clear advantage. Its 458-litre boot is way more accommodating than the Creta's boot that's listed with a capacity of 433 litres. You can split and fold the rear seats in both SUVs should you need more luggage space or need to carry oddly shaped items. Before we get going, a word on safety first. Both models in 2024 model year avatars get 6 airbags and electronic stability control as standard. Neither model has been crash tested by Global NCAP or Bharat NCAP as yet. Top versions also pack in ADAS or advanced driver assistance features such as lane keep assist, auto emergency braking and adaptive cruise control. The Creta system is more sophisticated with camera and radar based ADAS, whereas the Elevate uses a camera based system alone, which makes functionality more dependent on light and visibility. The ADAS functions work well enough, though are best thought of as an added safety net than as something to completely rely on. Of the other things, the Creta goes one up with blind view cameras on both sides, while the Elevate only offers a left side blind view. Now onto engines and gearboxes. The Creta offers greater variety with the option of a 1.5-litre turbo petrol and a 1.5-litre turbo diesel too, though for this comparison we've considered the Creta with the base 1.5-litre naturally aspirated petrol. The engine is pleasant as you learn and closest in spec to the 1.5-litre naturally aspirated VTEC petrol that's the sole powertrain on offer on the Elevate. CVT autos are offered on both SUVs and is the gearbox of choice for this test. Into the Creta first.
Within the Creta range, if you're someone looking for performance, you have the option of the 1.5-litre turbo petrol. If you're one who covers long distances, it's the 1.5-litre diesel that you should be looking at. But if you spend the majority of your driving in city confines, look no further than the Creta 1.5 petrol with the CVT gearbox. This 1.5-litre 115 horsepower engine is really likable. It delivers a pleasant spread of performance right from the get-go, and though the mid-range isn't punchy, you get all the performance that you need when you want it.
It's a smooth operator.
One of the highlights of this powertrain is refinement. The engine runs really quietly, and the other big plus is that despite having a CVT gearbox, which are known for that rubber band effect where the revs rise much faster than the actual road speed does, well, that is pretty well contained on this Creta IVT. It's as close to a torque converter automatic as a CVT can get.
And that's saying a lot. The gearbox in general is well in tune with your requirements.
You can take manual control via the paddle shifters. You also have a Tiptronic function at the gear lever, and unique to the Creta are drive modes. You get normal, eco and sport, which change throttle characteristics, but given the chilled out character of the Creta, I don't see too many users actually toggling between these settings.
Of the other things, the Creta is easy to live with thanks to a comfortably weighted steering and great visibility. It's also confident cruising out on the highway and has the edge with a more absorbent suspension at low speeds. The Honda Elevate comes into the fight with a slight power advantage and an engine with VTEC in its name.
The Honda Elevate is the more powerful car here, but it actually feels its best in city confines. Throttle responses are really crisp, and the CVT gearbox also works nicely in the background. The thing is, when you want more from the engine, say for a quick overtake and press down a bit harder on the accelerator pedal, you get the dreaded rubber band effect in all its glory. Engine revs rise, but there's not a corresponding increase in road speed, and it gets so noisy that you'll be nudged to just back off and bring the Elevate's engine into its comfort zone. And that's a shame, because then you don't experience the best of the engine, which is its performance.
The Elevate is the quicker SUV, and this was reflected in our test numbers too.
Paddle shifters do give you a bit more control of the proceedings, and you also have a sport mode for the gearbox, but there are no drive modes, not that you'll really miss them either.
Of the two SUVs, the Elevate is more engaging to drive on a winding road thanks to a slick steering and plenty of grip. The Honda feels sure-footed on the highway, but it doesn't feel as calm as a Creta.
There's also a whole lot more road noise that you'll hear in the Elevate, and in general, it just feels like a busier experience in the Elevate.
You'll also feel more of the surface imperfections in an Elevate, but when the road deteriorates is when the Honda really shines.
The long travel suspension, the 220mm of ground clearance, and that built to take a beating feel really count for a lot. And if you really think about it, of the current crop of mid-sized SUVs, the Elevate feels closest to the original Renault Duster in that respect.
The Creta IVT has a crucial edge when it comes to fuel economy. Not only does it have the higher official ARAI figure, but its 10.3 kpl city number is well clear of the Elevate that delivered just 8.6 kpl in our city test loop. The gap was smaller in highway economy though. Finally, pricing. As mentioned, the Creta is available across a wider price band, but talking specifically of the petrol automatics featured here, the Elevate range starts at 13.71 lakh rupees and tops off at 16.43 lakh rupees ex-showroom for the ZX CVT with us. The Creta IVT starts at 15.85 lakh rupees, with the SXO version featured here coming in at 18.73 lakh rupees ex-showroom. Forgo some frills and you'll get the SX Tech trim that at 17.48 lakh rupees is a smart pick. Over to the verdict. The Elevate makes for a level-headed choice. It's smart, practical, and actually scores well on value. The peppy performance makes it great for the city, but the average refinement and fuel economy are things you'll just have to live with. The Creta is pricier, but makes the extra spend feel worth it with a plusher and roomier cabin and a lot more wow features. That feel extends to the way it drives too, with better refinement and an overall quieter experience. It doesn't feel quite as tough as an Elevate, but in most other departments, the Creta comes across as the more wholesome package. When you're spending a considerable amount of money, that feel counts for a lot.